Ooh, spooky time, spooky video, spooky times. And don't forget to check your candy, because you might end up with the spooky Cinestill 800T in your candy, and that would be bad.
Because they will sue.
Haunted cameras that never work.
Stupid. That is very hot. This does not breathe very easily. There's only like the two little eye holes there. It's also been sitting on my desk for like 2 years now, so it's quite dusty. Welcome to another video. Thank you for joining me. It is Halloween. It is the time for spookiness and spooky things, and this is a spooky topic. And no, we're not discussing the Contax S2, although this does haunt my dreams. And we're not actually even going to be talking about broken cameras, really. Although I could make another video dedicated solely to broken cameras. Check out my Nightmare Closet video, because let me tell you, that is a spooky thing to me. But no, we were talking about the end of film photography as we know it. And that's a big setup, okay? That's a big setup. But I have something to back it up. So, for starters, why? I tried making this video a while ago, and I wanted to pull from the idea of why pursue this thing that is inherently difficult and can ultimately achieve similar results with easier methods, i.e. digital photography, i.e. shooting with your phone, or just not taking pictures at all and just enjoying the moment. Why not do all of that? Why go out of your way to spend a bunch of money on a film camera that may or may not work, then spend a bunch more money on film that may or may not come out, and then spend a bunch more money on getting it developed, only to end up with like 2 out of 36 pictures that you like? And it's scary. I've made the argument before many times over why I do think that this whole process, as inherently stupid as it is to sell to somebody, hey, do you want to invest a bunch of money in some disappointment down the line? Why, sure I do. That sounds like a great plan to me. Like, the pitch isn't a logical one, because the idea of art and creation in general isn't really one of a logical standpoint. So, from a pure financial standpoint, it makes much more sense to shoot digital, even with new things in the market, i.e. new film, new cameras potentially coming out, even like the new Kodak H35N, which you will be hard pressed to hear me say a kind word about. Those are all still options added to the market. So in that sense, creates value in the market, will create interest, will create people investing in it, potentially, maybe, hopefully. However, there's Fujifilm. And now, I've not really spoken about Fujifilm all too much. Just haven't, there's only so many hours in a day. But a good buddy of mine recently sold his Leica M6, I believe he had, and got a Fujifilm. And we did a little interview, and here's why. So we're good.
Right there.
Oh, I see.
Oh, there it goes.
Oh, that's tough.
Well, I gotta show you this.
Please do. Oh, yeah. I love that so much. What a fucking cutie.
Shooting with this thing, man. It's pretty cool.
Dude, it looks pretty cool.
It's like, it's the perfect transition to digital, I think.
Yeah, I'm really glad you don't have that attachment that I've seen where like it goes in the shoe, the hot shoe.
Oh, the little thumb thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cheesy.
It just looks kind of dorky. Every time I see it, I'm just like, I get the purpose of it, but it just kind of looks silly,
You don't need it. Like, it's got a good grip, It's got nothing to grip onto, It's not going anywhere, man.
Yeah, it drops it immediately.
The funny thing is, too, it feels more fucking stupid tree.
I love it, dude.
It feels like carrying it around. I'm less worried about it than when I had my Leica.
Right.
Because, like, I don't know, something about it felt kind of fiddly. Like, my rewind spool little guy.
Yeah.
It always was like on my F1 or whatever, every time you'd advance it, it would spin, you know?
Yeah.
As it should. But on my Leica, it would always kind of, like, just get slack in it, and it was, like, it was winding. Like, everything was working properly, but it was always just, like, blip, 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 like, just kind of flopping around, you know?
Yeah, I get what you mean. I
don't know if that's how it should have been. I don't know if there was, like, something wrong with it, but it always wigged me out, because it'd always just be rattling around and shit.
Yeah. I remember there was, like, some people I'd work with, if they took the top off the camera, they wouldn't tighten the rewind knob all the way. And I remember, like, sometimes I would, like, be inspecting cameras for whatever reason before they went out. And that was just always the thing I checked, was, like, will this, like, open up the back, and can I, like, rewind and stuff like that? And I would, like, end up unscrewing it. I'm like, dude, you can't do that, because, like, it's an easy thing to fix. You just gotta stick a little screwdriver in and tighten it up. But, like, if we're selling someone a camera, you shouldn't have to do that.
No, I missed that camera, but I just wasn't fucking shooting.
Yeah.
And so it just felt really stupid, just, like, seeing it sitting on my counter and, like, you know.
Yeah.
I can't afford to. I still have film that I haven't processed.
Yeah.
Because I can't afford to, you know.
Yeah, dude. First of all, it's ridiculous out there right now. Shot some Ektachrome in Florida. Over $1 per shot.
Per shot.
And I got, like, 4 or 5 shots that I was like, these are pretty good.
Yeah.
Like 4 or 5 that I was like, they're not. I don't like them that much, but they're okay.
My coworker has let me borrow this.
Okay.
He gave me a roll
like those.
of HP5.
Yeah.
And he develops everything himself, so he's like, yeah, here, shoot this and try it out, you know.
Yeah.
And I've only shot, like, you know, where's the counter? On the side here. I've only shot 4 shots with it. So
yeah.
I want to shoot film. Like, if I could, I would be doing that instead.
Yeah.
But you know, like, it's like I got to a point where it's like I want to be better at shooting, but I can't afford what that means, you know. Like, you have to shoot a lot to get good,
right?
And, like, I don't know, it was like it got to the point where I was like maybe getting 5 or 6 shots that I was like, I dig in this roll. The rest are just trash.
Yeah.
And it's like I can't afford that. And also, like, it takes me a long time to get through a roll. Because I was trying to be more selective on what I shot because I couldn't afford it. And so it was like I don't get to see the turnaround of, like, you know, oh, I did this and this is what it, you know, resulted in. So it's like, I don't know. But, like, yesterday actually, Marcel and I were just, like, roaming around trying to find something to do, and, like, I hadn't taken my camera out in a while, and I took it out and we were just walking around, and we were in, like, Old Town Scottsdale area, just fucking walking around because the weather was, like, pretty nice. It was like 92.
Oh yeah, wow, nice.
It actually, you know, it was nice.
Yeah.
But
compared to the 110 it's been.
Yeah. But there was, like, this restaurant that I'm assuming they had a grease fire or something, and so the alarms are going off, and this whole building, all these people were, like, outside waiting to come back in. The fire trucks were rolling up and shit. And, like, I got one cool photo, and it was just, like, walking really quickly and, like, blasted it, and I was like, later looked at it, I was like, oh, this is fucking, I'm pretty happy with this, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel reinvigorated just from one photo.
No, yeah.
Silly, you know, but
here's the thing. I completely agree with my buddy Gage here. Check out the other videos we did up here. And hope you're doing well, Gage, if you're watching this. I think with the introduction of Fujifilm cameras and the ease of use of the plugins and stuff, you can really achieve a lot of the accessibility of digital photography with the added essence of film. And I think a lot of that has to do with like the warmth of the images you can create, and also just the textured feelings that you can't really otherwise achieve with like a Sony or even this camera I'm shooting on right now. So something I will say that I enjoy a lot of the times when I'm not really feeling like shooting film, when I want a little bit of faster result, faster feedback, I take out this. This is my camcorder. I've talked about these before. This, I feel like, has really taken the place of like Super 8 film for me, even 16mm at times, because the ease of use of this, the quality of image that it creates, it all kind of harkens back to this idea of home video substance. And yeah, the quality might be lacking, but there's some sort of authenticity to it that you can replicate in other systems. But I think the fact that the limit of this, of a camcorder such as that, is that quality, it makes it more sincere. I'm not going out of my way to create that look, it is just happening naturally. The other alternative that I have, this is my Canon 5D. This is the original Mark 1. I got a 50-1.5 on here. This kind of works in the same way as an SLR would. It is large, it is heavy, it is slow. The images comes out of this thing are gorgeous when they're in focus, which they're very rarely in focus. But paired with this lens, I have a much better time with it. It doesn't work very well, but it does work for what it is. And it introduces the limitations of quality, because this camera, I believe, came out in 2009. So it's fairly old, and it also has limitations in functionality, i.e. autofocus isn't that good, which on this is the only camera that I would really use autofocus on, because even with like my 20/20 vision, it is really hard to get focus with this camera. So those are two of the options that I use to kind of replace film photography or film videography in my day-to-day life. But I will be honest, it still does leave a gaping hole. So, the argument could still be made that those things only satisfy certain components of my lifestyle. There's other things that really draw me into film that those things cannot really satisfy. And I would agree with that. There's something more substantial about the physical interfacing that you have with film, advancing the lever, pressing down on the shutter button, feeling all the actuations, and given my limited knowledge, albeit, but knowledge of different camera systems, as it's firing, I'm kind of subconsciously thinking about all the actuations of all the different mechanisms within the system that will ultimately produce this kind of subpar image. But regardless, it is still an experience that you don't really get as much in digital, where it's just click, wizardry happens, image is produced. And especially when you have like a LUT or a plugin put in where click, magic, wizardry is produced, and then you get this image that doesn't really look anything like what you just saw. And yes, it does produce an image that you like, but it's not really truthful to what you're seeing. The same argument can be made with film, because if you're shooting black and white film, unless you're colorblind, that ain't what you saw. I do think, though, that given that it's not what you see necessarily, but it's how you look at the image, it's kind of shaped by the knowledge of what film you have in there. So with that being said, I do think it creates a more involved experience versus digital, where I can shoot like 4 or 5 pictures, different apertures, different shutter speeds, and then I can just kind of go through and figure out which ones I like, which ones I don't on the spot. And I can make those decisions and, perfect the image there. That works for a lot of people, and I definitely get that. I do the same thing with video probably, but for me, photography is more about, I want to capture this image, so I do. And then I move on to the next one. So it's a bit of a different experience. Now, this conversation about the end of film photography can't really be had without addressing the elephant in the room. The world. I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds here, because honestly I did not do enough research to really back up this discussion, but I do think that there are certain ecological concerns that should be addressed, because film is produced and it's developed with use of relatively harsh chemicals, bleach, fixer, stopper, developer, all that stuff. Probably not great. I know it's not really good to drink. I've had some very negative feedback when I got a little thirsty in the dark room, desperate times. There's the ecological concerns of the developing. There's ecological concerns with the production of film. You've noticed this in Fujifilm, where stricter laws in Japan have kind of limited the amount of film emulsions in certain films that they're able to produce. And there's probably a lot more to get into on that, and I'll maybe save that for a separate video. Film and film development and film production, all of that stuff does create waste. Most things do, unfortunately, but this I feel like is a bit more concentrated in the realm of waste that it's created. And again, I did not do a whole lot of research, so I'm not going to get too far into the weeds, but I just think as we look forward to the future of like renewable resources and like things we can do to kind of preserve the planet for future generations and all that stuff. And I'm not going to get on a soapbox here. I'm just sitting on an ottoman, so don't worry. I do think that is something that needs to be taken into account. And I think that's kind of a lot of my goals and missions as a camera repair person, is to preserve what we have, i.e. these cameras that otherwise would probably see the landfill. If I could try to cobble a few of them together and make a working one to save someone from wanting to buy a newly produced thing, I'm all for it. So that's kind of my approach to it, is that film photography could be gone. I think right now we are kind of thriving off of this bubble of interest. People are looking for things that are kind of going to root them into the art that they create. But I think as we kind of move a little bit further past that like kind of quarantine boom that a lot of like very niche hobbies experienced, I think people will begin to notice that there are things such as these old digicams, things such as the Fujifilm camera systems and stuff that can produce relatively similar results for a fraction of the price. And this harkens back to a discussion that I've had with a very good friend of mine for many years now, where my argument is I love shooting 16mm film. I always have. Since the first time I shot it, I love shooting 16mm film. And we would debate for hours, literal hours, like 6 hours at a time, about how he could produce imagery that would look exactly like 16mm film digitally with an overlay. To that I said, yes, you can, but you cannot replicate the experience of shooting 16mm film. You cannot replicate the rush of, I have about 2 minutes to get this shot. I have just about 50 feet of film left, so I've got to get this and then move on to the next one and get that shot, move on to the next one. You can't replicate that experience with just a simple grain overlay. And to that he said, yeah, but I can get more shots. This is all a discussion that's based upon your approach, what you choose to do with the art you create. Me personally, I love shooting film. I'm probably going to shoot film for the rest of my life because it is something that, again, I feel involved in. It's something that I feel really does slow me down and helps me look at the world in a way that I wouldn't look otherwise. But I think for a lot of people, it's expensive. I think for a lot of people, they can't rationalize that expense, and I think that makes complete sense. This is an irrational thing to do. And I am thankful that there are options out there, such as the Fujifilm, that can resurrect the looks of these certain stocks that don't exist anymore. And I'm thankful that there are things such as these, which can help you capture memories in a way that might remind you of something similar to a Super 8 camera or an old home video. And I'm thankful for things such as these. When it's late at night, my home is being invaded, and I need a weapon to defend myself with. I mean, this thing is a brick. I love it so much. The experience of using something like this, maybe not this one, but something kind of like this, where when you get a shot, you're excited that the camera works. But no, when the experience of using a camera system You can feel all the different mechanisms moving. You understand what's going on. You know what film you loaded. But you have a finite amount of film there to get the perfect shot that you want. There's nothing really in the world that beats that. Film photography might be on its way out. There are plenty of other successors lining up to take its place. There are plenty other options available in the market for much more reasonable prices. But I don't think it's going out without a fight. Until then, I will continue to waste my money shooting subpar photography, subpar videography to deliver to you, and hopefully continue to share my experiences with different film, different cameras, different repair methods, so on and so forth, so long as people are willing to watch and share their experiences as well, because that's a huge thing too. I love hearing from you guys, so be sure to comment down below what you think. Are you more or less interested in shooting film? Do you want to try to transition over to digital? What are your thoughts, feelings, opinions on the matters, so on and so forth? I want to thank you all for watching. Appreciate it as always. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, catch you on the next one.
And don't forget to check your candy, because you might end up with the spooky Cinestill 800T in your candy, and that would be bad.
Because they will sue. I'm just kidding. I don't actually think they're going to sue, but I think if I keep talking shit, they might, which would be great exposure for the channel. Just kidding. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Happy Halloween. Be safe out there. And yeah, don't take candy from strangers.